Hi everyone, this is your host Chadish. I hope you are all doing well. In this episode of Timeless Catalyst, I am hosting Thomas J.Sandrin. He has worked in the luxury brand industry for almost 16 years. He founded the WatchDNA.com, a community around the watch enthusiasts, and today he is going to take us through his journey and we will talk about the watch collection, watch trends, and everything about watches. Let's see what he has to say. Thomas, welcome to this episode. Can we get to know you more, please?
Sure. My name is Thomas J.Sandrin. I'm originally from Paris. I came in Canada 19 years ago. My wife's Canadian, from Ottawa actually. So I came here 19 years ago. Proud father of two. I'm very happy to be in the industry that I love for the last 16 years. I was the brand manager of a luxury Swiss brand, Hamilton, with the Swatch Group for 12 years, which I love every day. But then some personal episode happened in my life. And then just before COVID, I decided to go back to school. I did a master in business. And the first year, I did a big study of the industry, looking at the opportunities and the challenges. And then I kind of decided to throw the dice. I was 39 at the time, 3.5 years ago, and I decided to launch my business.
I want to take you back to 16 years ago.
Yeah.
What was the decision that motivated you to join the watch industry?
So to be honest, when I came to Canada, I came here as a new immigrant. So my first job was actually going door to door, knocking on people's doors, selling home services, Rogers Home Services. I did that for 2 years until I get my paper. And I have a colleague that launched a company that was distributing alcohol. So I went from the services to the alcohol business. And then after 2 years of doing that, and I have a background a little bit in being a social person, being active. My parents owned restaurants and bars back in Paris. So I always love to connect with people. And at the time, I was getting engaged with my wife, and it was just time for me to change, to have a new position. And to be honest, a very funny story actually. When I applied for the position that I hold with Hamilton, I actually first applied for the position, but nobody called me. And then 2-3 weeks after, I saw a similar position for the same company, but as an assistant. And then what I did at the time is that I hired somebody to help me redo my resume. And then when I applied for this assistant position, the HR of the company, of Swatch Group Canada at the time, reached out to me and saying, "Hey, Thomas, we just noticed your resume for the assistant position, but we saw that you have all the experience needed and you're bilingual because obviously Quebec is a big, very important for the industry, especially in Canada." And so she was like, "With your experience and your personality, will you be interesting at the other position, which I applied before that they never called me?" So then she's like, "Okay, just change your resume and then come for an interview." And so that's how I started. It's literally is by having somebody that trusted me, or at least give me a chance.
Coming back to post-COVID period, you started the WatchDNA, a community around the watch industry. Can you just talk a bit more about the community?
Sure. So basically, one thing that I did during my study is, as I mentioned, I spoke to more than 1,000 people. I spoke to retailers, I spoke to brands, but I also spoke to end consumer. And something that we realized is that there's a lot of platforms out there that talk about watches, and it's great, and honestly, I follow a lot of them. But a lot of them actually will write beautiful articles, tell beautiful things, but in the end, they will have a buy now button, or they will have a direction to buy the product somewhere. So a lot of people, when I talk to, they say, "Okay, this is great. I'm learning this amazing stories about timepieces, specific model. But in the end, is it legit what I'm reading, or is it something that you try to sell me a product?" And so the whole idea of WatchDNA was really to create a platform that is genuine, that basically what we try to do is we try to become the directory of all the watch brands available on the market and all the authorized retailers. And so it's obviously a mission, it's a tech time, but it's really something that I believe is basically by educating people, entertaining them, and then connecting them with brands or with the retailers. That's kind of the mission of the WatchDNA. So coming back on the community aspect, something that is important for me is there's a lot of people that love watches. Some of them are not expert. Something that I do, as I mentioned, is even though I'm in the industry for a long time, I don't want to call myself, I don't believe I'm an expert, because I believe that there's, in any topics, there's always somebody that knows more than you, and then you can always learn something. And so this really aspect of WatchDNA is to have, so educating people, entertaining them, connect them, and also having a platform for anybody that like watches to submit an article idea, feature, being reposted on social media. Something that I'm very, very proud of is basically anytime that there's somebody on Instagram, for example, that like watches, that posts watches, I would love for them to reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to add them first on our site as the community member, but also we have a private WatchDNA community chat on Instagram, and anytime that one of us post like something, we just share the love with each other, and that's very, very cool. And so the idea is really this aspect of sharing the passion, the love of the watches. But for me, and that might be a next question for you, but for me it's not about the object. For me it's about the story behind. For me it's about the memory of a product that somebody purchased, maybe because they got their first baby was born, or they finished school, or like, for example, I have a watch that is, I bought it when I graduated, but it's in the safe, and it will get out sometimes, just to look at it, but realistically it's for my sons when he's graduating from his school. So that's kind of the idea for me. It's really not about the actual object. It's more about the story behind and the people behind as well. That's why the community.
Actually, Thomas, the stories are really important. I kind of explained you my story. When I started the watch collection, it was because of a watch that my grandmother bought me when I started the university as kind of a gift. She was like, "Oh, you are a grown man now, and you need to be mindful about your time." And she purchased a Citizen watch for me. It's a quartz watch. And it was literally sitting idle. So this is how it kind of, triggered me for this. Since you mentioned the stories, is there any story that kind of like affected you so far? It can be about a watch brand or someone's, story about a particular watch.
So I have a little story that is actually very fresh in my mind. So being originally from France, I mentioned, I try to go as often as I can visit my parents, my brother, my parents, that everybody lived there. And back in November, I actually went to visit my parents by myself. It's the first time that I didn't bring the whole family with me. I just wanted to spend a week with my parents. My mom is a little bit older. My parents are a little bit older. My mom is a little bit sick. So I just wanted to spend quality time with them. And literally, and my parents love to move. For the last 20 years, they moved to like 20 different house condos, and anyway, that's what they like to do. But now they try to settle a little bit, and so they moved to a new place. And then the new place, I basically was there for a week, and I was, looking at boxes, and this is some drawing that I had when I was in school. Parents, right? I keep my thing for my kids for them to have. And then I go to my dad's office, and he has this box. So I open this box, and he has this safe, and I'm like, "Oh, that's a safe," but the safe is unlocked. So I open, and there's a watch there. I'm like, "Oh, okay." I look at the watch, and I was like, so I went to see my dad. I'm like, "Hey, Dad, what is this watch for?" He's like, "Oh, wow, you found it." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Oh, it's been like 5-10 years I didn't see this watch." I'm like, "What do you mean? It wasn't yourself?" He's like, "Oh, I moved so much." And I was like, "Tell me about it." He's like, "So this watch, my mom, so my grandma, gave it to my dad when he turned 18. It's like a French brand. And he was like, "Yeah, I don't know, out of the blue, she just offered me this watch." And then, so I look at, and my dad was like, "Oh, if you want," and sorry, I'm coming back, but yeah, so that was, sorry, I'm emotional, that's right. And so basically, he's like, "Oh yes, my mom gave it to me when I was 18, so my grandma." And then, but the watch was not working because it's been a long time. So I was like, "Oh, what about if I take it with me and I bring it to a watchmaker that my network to fix it?" And he's like, "Yeah, for sure, no problem." So, but he's like, "Make sure you bring it back to me next time." I'm like, I will. But so that's coming back to the story. It's like, literally, it's like 18, my dad is 73. And, it's basically a way to come back in memory line and for me to be emotional about a watch that my dad's thinking of, as.
By the way, what was the brand of the watch?
The brand is a Lip. It's a French brand that was in the long time ago, one of the brand in France. And I heard, I didn't really look a lot about it, but I heard that the business way maybe a little bit down at one point, but now he got back. And actually when I was in stores, in November. I was looking for it and I saw it in the store now. So I'm very happy. And hopefully I can connect with them.
Thomas, how do you see the Canadian watch industry for this year and the upcoming years?
So something that I enjoy is I enjoy sometimes going to look at official stats, Stat Canada, import export from the Swiss industry and things like that. So and even inside internally businesses talking with brands, because part of my agency I work with a lot of brands as well. So we saw that last year was a little bit deep, obviously. So you had this surprisingly business was doing good for many years. It was growing, and then COVID hit. You had a little bit of a gap the first year, but then it went very strong. It was kind of like tsunami effect. It went very strong, and then we saw the value of the big watches, the big brands, the collectors. People. Last year was a little bit slower, but as I mentioned earlier, for me, watches is really a product. Is more than a product, and so I believe that even though there is some uncertainty, like for everywhere and in our society, I believe that there will always be people that getting married, always be people getting engaged, always be young babies born. There is always occasion, and for those occasions, there will always be a lot of people are looking for a specific product, object to have a memory, to build a memory. So I'm not worried about that. And something that I think will go as well is that, and we saw a little bit of a wave of brand as well, having different way of distribution. For many years, the brands were distributed in stores, and then slowly brands were opening their own corporate stores as well. I think the future will be a balance between both, because I believe that a lot of people like you and I, I'm sure, we all first, there something in a jewelry that I love is really this aspect of, as you mentioned earlier, community, but also trust. And I believe that that's why I love WatchDNA, and I love creating slowly a directory of authorized retailers, because for me, it's not just about promoting the brand, it's also promoting the people behind, the people that actually build a relationship. Because if you have each occasion, the first time you will try to find somebody. Maybe you will try to find the best deal, and maybe sometimes you will try to find the best deal. But realistically, there's a lot of jewelers out there that are passionate about what they do. And I believe that yes, stores and brands sometimes work on the corporate level and have the corporate stores, but the independent jewelry stores, I think, is here for a long time, because it's all about the relationship. Like, you have a baby, you go see this person to get a necklace, and then, or a bracelet, or a necklace, and then you have, for each occasion, you will go back to this person that you actually trust. You build a relationship with this person. And so, coming back to your question about the industry, I think, like every industry, there is up and down. It's just what it is. But yeah, no, as long that you have first passionate people behind, and then beautiful product that's coming as well, I think it will go well.
Having worked at the Swatch Group, do you think this year we will see some collaborations like Omega Moon Swatch or Blank Pan 50 Fathoms? Do you think that there will be another collaboration from the Swatch Group?
That I'm not sure, or at least I cannot say. But no, listen, in the end of the day, the few collections that you mentioned, I think first it was an amazing marketing, direction. It was a great communication. I was one of the first one, not in line, but actually interviewing people in line on front of the Eaton Center in Toronto when the first watch, at 3 o'clock in the morning. So that was, and it's just. In the end of the day, it's always exciting to see excitement, to see other people excited about something, about our industry, about something else. Doesn't matter. As long that there is one thing that connects people, I just like it. That's kind of what it is. So coming back to your question, I'm not sure. I have few ideas, but yeah, I don't have anything officially.
Thomas, there's one last question I like to ask to every guest. What is on your wrist today?
So today I have an Alka. Let me actually, you can have a look. So Alka is actually a micro brand, and I'm very excited about it because, funny story, So Hakim, which is the owner of Elka Watches, is a friend of mine, and actually I worked with him for 10 years with Hamilton at Swatch Group. He was the head designer of Hamilton watches, and so he used to work with Swatch, he used to work with Hamilton, and then he worked with Rado as well. And then at the same time that I launched my company, he also decided to launch Elka. And so being a micro brand, something that I realized as well is that in Europe, there's a lot of stores and a lot of micro brands that have a little bit of distribution. Micro brands, they do a lot of direct to consumer, but they also have, a lot of stores that have big brands and then some micro brands. In North America, it's a little bit more about the big brands. So one thing that I try to do is I try to help micro brands, potential, or even brands that are somehow established but don't really have a big distribution. I try to help them get and introduce them to some retailers that potentially can sell them, or also potentially creating a pop-up shop activity or things like that. That's something that I was actually very exciting when I saw last year. I think we both were at the Toronto timepiece show. I was very excited about it to finally have this show. Jason, which is the founder, created a very amazing get together. Very proud that WatchDNA is a media partner, and actually we're going to be there in Vancouver as well in April. So coming back to Elka, is an amazing Hakim, which is the owner, is an amazing guy. And to be honest, the brand, I love it. It looks really nice. It looks really, really nice. I wear this one very often. Actually, I have two of those, two different Elka, but I wear this one because of the beige, the NATO band. It's just very comfortable on my wrist.
Also, for our audience of the Timeless Catalyst, thanks to you and Hakim and also our colleagues at Gem Bijou, I will also do a review of the Elka watches, the X series as well. It looks like a really cool watch.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I can't wait for everybody to discover the brand.
Do you have any final maybe remarks for any new watch collector, like how they can start or what they should pay attention to? Any kind of like advices for them?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm putting that because I feel naked. Advice. Something though is that what I love about WatchDNA, and again, yes, it's mine, so maybe I'm not, it's kind of my baby, But what I love is that we talk about all the brands. We don't talk about the brands that we sell, because we don't sell. We really talk about brands from $50 to $1 million, right? And the idea, answering your questions, for some people, $100 is a lot of money. And for some people, $50,000 is not a lot of money, right? So it really depends. So I would say for somebody that's looking, is just the taste, comfortable. The budget obviously is very important. The occasion. That's kind of what it is. My very first watch, if you ask me, I had a Flick Flack. A long time ago, my parents bought me a Flick Flack. And then past years, I moved to the States. I lived in Seattle for 2 years. I was an au pair, a living nanny there, taking care of 3 boys, which I still have a great contact. And the family for Christmas, they bought me a Swatch. And so that was my second of year. And the third one was actually a gift also, and it was a Tissot. So I was like, oh, now that you think about it, it's like I had the whole Swatch Group life, through the age. And then when I left, I got myself an Omega as well when I left the Swatch Group, but that's a different story. So but I have other brands as well from different groups. But coming back to your question, it's really about how you feel, if you feel comfortable. I'm actually writing right now, and I'm very excited for this project. It was a last minute project that I had. Very soon we have International Women's Day, and that's actually one of the questions that I had for the ladies that hopefully will contribute. And something that I wanted to mention, why I'm mentioning that, is that there is a lot of people, or even before, you had this category of gender, right, for watches, men. But talking to a lot of different individual, woman, man, doesn't matter their gender, they will say, but I wear a 36 mil, or I wear a 45 mil, or I wear, So actually, if you look on WatchDNA, we don't have this gender filter, because everybody is free to feel what they want, and to like what they want. Is nobody to judge, it's just themselves, and so that's so whatever feels comfortable with you and that you like, and make you feel make you feel good with yourself.
Also, maybe as a contribution to what you said, I think watch collections, or I would say overall watches, it's always about the feeling that you are getting from the watch. It's not about the brand, the price you are paying. It's always about the feeling, because time is so valuable. You need to have good feelings, to keep the track of time.
No, I agree. I agree. And in the end of the day, there's always the investment part, for some individual. It's just not for me, it's more about the feeling. And I wear my Swatch watch sometimes that I still have, after 25 years. And, and I like it, so it really depends. So, yeah.
Thomas, thank you so much once again for being with us on this episode. For our viewers, in the description, you will see the WatchDNA website as well. Please, guys, follow them and read the articles and follow them on their social media. And hope to see you again.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for having me.